Welcome and thanks for joining us. We're speaking with Michael Farmer, a security solutions architect at Splunk. Michael, good to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thanks.
And let's talk about Splunk itself. It's a big player, has been around a while now in the security space. But for those that may not know, just break it down. What does Splunk do? And how do you fit specifically in this whole search agencies still have towards zero trust?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Splunk's been a big player in the security space for a while now. One of our claims to fame is that we've been in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This past year was our 10th year in a row to be in the leader quadrant, which we're the only ones that can say claim that longevity. Um, but at its core, what Splunk does is it gives you visibility into your data, and specifically in the security space, into your security data. And in zero trust, visibility is king. If you can't see what's going on in your environment, you can't respond appropriately, and that's when bad things happen. Now, one of our strengths within zero trust is the way that Splunk um, cuts across all of the other pillars of zero trust. And we do that through analytics, we do that through automation and orchestration, and through visibility, like I mentioned earlier. And that's unique to some of the other zero trust providers because we give you that holistic view into your ecosystem that the individual, say, identity and device management providers can't do. They work great within their own silos, but Splunk gives you that bigger picture view.
And when you mention security data, you mean the logs that are generated that nobody has a practical way of dealing with unless they use something like a Splunk.
Yes, and another one of Splunk's strengths is that we ingest unstructured data, unlike a traditional database. And so we can bring in your log data as it is, and then start to search it as raw logs, or start to transform it so that it can be more productive.
All right. And you mentioned the pillars, of course, that you cut across. And pillars to me sounds like all of the other industry tools that agencies have. And so there is a need for integration of Splunk with some of these other tools. Tell us about how you do that and what are the most important integrations with respect to the zero trust journey.
Sure. Splunk integrates with over 300 different security solutions. We keep our integrations on a database called Splunk Base. So if you're curious about whether a integration exists with your security product, you can go out there and quickly check to see. Some of the most useful ones are going to be your endpoint data, so your CrowdStrike and your Microsoft Defender data. It's going to be your identity data. So we get that from Okta or Ping Identity, just to name a few. Your security data, as you mentioned, can live in a multitude of places. And so we integrate with things like AWS Security Lake and AWS Security Hub to give you visibility across your cloud environment. And then also the network data. So your Cisco Secure and your Palo Alto networks, we can bring all of that in to give you a bigger visibility into what's going on with your network.
And of course, you mentioned Cisco, and Cisco has acquired Splunk in recent times. And has that changed anything with respect to the support that you're giving to Zero Trust, or maybe it enhances it?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people have been asking. The short answer, Splunk's mission isn't changing. We're still focused on delivering best-in-class security analytics and operational intelligence, and that includes being technology agnostic. We don't lock customers into a specific ecosystem, and that's not going to change because of the acquisition. Organizations can still use Splunk with whatever security stack works best for them. That said, this partnership does bring some exciting benefits. By combining Splunk's powerful security analytics with Cisco's leading network security solutions, we're making zero trust even stronger. And this means better threat visibility across endpoints, networks, and cloud environments, faster response automation by integrating Splunk's Siemens SOAR with Cisco's security tools, stronger zero trust enforcement through deeper integration with Cisco's identity, access, and network security solutions. So rather than changing our approach, this partnership is actually enhancing how we help agencies scale their zero trust strategies while still keeping them flexible enough to work with any tool set.
And when you speak with federal agencies, what is it they're telling you they want most nowadays with respect to zero trust and cybersecurity in general? I know they always want fewer tools that do more for them, but in the era of cloud and AI and all of these other things impinging more and more and more on the central agency, what is it they really, what are you hearing as the demand signals for getting to zero trust?
So the top concerns that I'm hearing are around insider threat, um, around cloud security, that real-time threat detection, and around compliance. A lot of organizations are struggling to have that visibility across their environment, and they're especially worried when they have a hybrid or a multi-cloud environment situation. So where Splunk comes in is providing that unified security monitoring. We pulled in that data from on-prem, in the cloud, and within the endpoints to detect those incidents in real time.
Yeah, this idea of identity is really central to this. It seems that's the theme I'm hearing, that that's really crucial in zero trust because it gets to the people that are accessing the system.
Correct. And what Zero Trust focuses on is that adaptive authentication. So we're not just letting someone in because they have the right credentials. We want to make sure that they're accessing it from the correct machine, they're in the correct geographical location, they're not accessing something else on their computer that would share that information unduly as well.
And just a side question, which is kind of, I've asked myself, sometimes people log on to their corporate or agency network with more than one device at a time. Like you
Mhm.
might want to see your email on the phone while you're doing something else on your big screen or whatever the case might be, or you're just working on two different machines. And most systems allow you to do that. Is it
Mhm.
possible nowadays to say that's an anomaly and it shouldn't happen, or that's just normal working and that's allowed? I mean, there must be rules around that and something you have to watch of multiple devices at once when it becomes an anomaly.
Yeah, and the situation could be either one. It could be perfectly normal. A lot of people have a laptop, a cell phone, their work computer, even smart appliances like a smartwatch, and all of those things are connecting to the internet and to potentially, the customer's environment as well at the same time. And so that's not a problem. But what could be a problem is when you create that situation where it's accessing it from a place. You can't be at work and at home at the same time. You can't be in two geographically different locations at the
Sure.
same time. And what Splunk does is it creates an identity and asset database. And so a person that has a login with Gmail has a separate login with corporate email. It can start to tie those identities together so that we see that as a single person as opposed to two separate people.
And identity management goes beyond human beings too. I mean, the identity of devices, IoT, and this kind of thing is also part of this whole logs that you have to identify and research.
Right. And we're actually starting to get away from using identity so much as entity, because an entity could be, like you said, a device, it could be a person, it could be an application that runs on your web server as well.
All right. And you also mentioned AWS and integration with some of the tools they have. And how does that help with some of the what customers are dealing with? Because almost everybody's in a cloud nowadays. And so their infrastructure is not something they totally control.
Yeah, a lot of agencies are embracing, especially AWS. And what we're doing is by being an AWS partner, is we're developing and integrating as fast as they are. When AWS came out with AWS Security Lake, Splunk also announced integration with being able to search that data. So working with the AWS partner ecosystem, we're able to stay in sync with the data that AWS is producing and able to integrate that into that security ecosystem.
So in that sense, it kind of virtualizes the environment from the standpoint of viewing it in a cybersecurity sense. Your own data centers, your own servers, and the AWS servers are all looked at in the same manner by the agency from their standpoint.
Exactly. Yes, you put that very well.
All right. And what else do we need to know? I mean, I guess getting back to your question with respect to the 300 integrations in the Splunk base, sounds like you got to stay on top of that because new tools are coming out all the time. Even worse, the existing 300 are being updated all the time, and that tends to break what you thought was already in place.
Yeah, Splunk has its own partner ecosystem as well. And so a lot of we work closely with our partners, including AWS, and they help to maintain that integration. So it's not something that Splunk carries on its own.
And getting back to the identity management issue, you mentioned Okta and Ping identity. What are
Mhm.
the trends there? I mean, identity management, I keep coming back to that, but that's something I think is central to zero trust because what it is you're trusting is access. And people are coming at this with so many different devices, so many different tasks that they have. How do you map that against the need or the desire for single sign-on, which makes things uncrazy for the end user?
Agencies define their access policies, and identity is just one portion of that. And once that policy has been defined, we can replicate that within Splunk to make sure it's being enforced. So, for example, I mentioned earlier adaptive identity. Um, Today, it's not as simple as I'm the right user with the right password. You need to be the right user. You need to be accessing the right device. You need to be making the correct changes. For example, if there is a security concern and you need to go in and make a change to a system file, you also need to have a trouble ticket submitted, and you need to be working on that trouble ticket. So all of those things have to come together to make sure that that person should have access to that system. And Splunk helps with giving visibility into whether that happened or not.
And of course, I remember when Splunk came into the federal market, it must be 15 years ago or now, or so. And this was before the AI and machine learning generation kind of hit.
Mm.
I imagine you're incorporating those types of tools into your own products, maybe unseen by the client, but getting away from strictly if and rules to control access and get towards zero trust, but have a more adaptive and kind of predictive approach.
Yeah, definitely. And you hit it on the head with adaptive and predictive. What we're looking at there is abnormal behavior. And through machine learning and the Splunk analytics, we can determine if a person's activities are abnormal, and even to the point to are they abnormal for them? In other words, if one particular user struggles to remember their password every Monday morning, them having a few password failures isn't uncommon. Um, However, if someone else logs in and they've hardly ever have a password failure, but they suddenly have 20 or 30 in a row, that's abnormal for that person. And so we can actually assign normality and abnormality at the entity level.
Yeah, so that's really getting much more subtle than just the if and for a couple of parameters.
Mhm. Exactly.
And I guess mistyping patterns and this kind of thing is all coming into this whole idea of machine learning.
Yes, that's not something that we've delved into yet, but machine learning is getting to the point where a person's particular typing cadence can be indicative of whether that's actually that person or someone else.
All right, and we'll wind up with where we started, and that is something about Splunk. Just briefly explain how people use Splunk. That is, are you a cloud hosted service? Is it something you can run on your own servers? All of the above?
Yeah, that's one of Splunk's strengths is that it can work in any environment. So we offer both a cloud solution, a managed cloud solution called Splunk Cloud. We also are available on-prem for customers that would prefer to run on actual hardware that they control. Um, And we also support hybrid environments. And then within those environments, specifically Splunk Cloud, we have FedRAMP that goes all the way up to FedRAMP Moderate and FedRAMP High. Um, and so we can run in any environment that our customers are active in.
All right, good place to end. Thanks for so much insight. Michael Farmer is a security solutions architect at Splunk. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm Federal Drive host Tom Temin, and you've been listening to Accelerate Together Zero Trust. For more on this series, please visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search AWS.